Happy Halloween, paisanos! Buckle up, because tonight— Oh, I'm definitely not gonna get this video finished on time. Happy holidays, friends, enemies, frenemies, and splenemies. Harris Bomber Guy here. I'm just chilling out here in my house, enjoying the best that the clearance aisle had to offer. This Fortnite Funko Pop Tower Recon Specialist. Okay. This tasteful Coraline mug you can drink out of Coraline's head. Start off your morning routine with Coraline. Not dishwasher or microwave safe. And this Friends makeup set, where every color is a reference to a show that ended 15 years ago. Fukuyama was right! History ended in 2004 when Rachel got off the plane! And yes, I'm actually going to give this as a gift at my family's Secret Santa this year. I guess you know who got you your gift, Luke. I hope you've seen Friends. I also hope you'll stop being such a Ross. But the sad thing is, when I give my family these gifts, which are as good as they deserve, on Christmas Day, I won't even be allowed to say Merry Christmas as I do it, because of the liberal, communist, atheist conspiracy to destroy the Christian religion by eroding its traditions. Political correctness, whoever that is, literally says it's racist to say Christmas now. At least that's what I reckon is happening, and that's the same thing as checking. Our culture is being crushed underfoot by radicals who want to destroy polite society to achieve their own ends. Oh, those hecking, gosh darned, flipping bastards.
Christianity comes under attack.
There's a war on Christmas.
They outlawed Merry Christmas a few years ago, and you know it.
Christmas becomes ever more about shallow displays of political correctness.
Happy holidays, not Merry Christmas. Kids no longer have Christmas vacation, holiday vacation. Christmas parties, holiday parties.
The war on Christmas.
Whoever's watching this right now, think of something you love that brings you a sense of peace and decency, and they will somehow link it to the patriarchy and the rest of their politically correct nonsense.
Christianity is being bigoted against. We're under attack.
You couldn't even say Merry Christmas at Walmart.
Obama said Merry Christmas a few times, but he still made sure to neuter the Christmas cards and also the Christmas decorations at the White House.
What we're seeing happening has been a recent phenomenon, the war on Christmas, the war against religious liberty.
Of course it's a war on Christmas.
Christmas has lost all meaning thanks to cultural Marxism.
Ah, it's those bloody cultural Marxists ruining everything again. That's why society's getting worse. It can't possibly be because of the policies of the people who keep getting elected. But don't worry, peace-loving citizens. I'm here to lead the charge in fighting back against these imaginary ghosts. So grab a slice of anonymous holiday meat and settle into your festive season Anderson shelter before the political correctness bombs hit. Because it's time for the war on Christmas. Oh, I won.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
In most Western countries, the winter season plays host to many religious and cultural traditions. Some people say the phrase Happy Holidays exists as a way of trying to be more inclusive to other people's traditions in the modern era, but this is inaccurate. I did literally 5 minutes of Googling and found Happy Holidays being used as far back as 1863, and who knows how far back further it would have turned out to have gone if I'd done any more research. It turns out that people like to have more than one phrase to say. It's why people put season's greetings on stuff. This isn't blasphemy, it's language. Did you know we've been writing Xmas instead of Christmas for thousands of years? The X isn't trying to secularize the religion by removing the word Christ or something. It's actually the Greek letter chi, which has been a Christogram, an abbreviation of Jesus Christ, for about 1700 years or something. I don't know, I'm not a religion studier. An extremely popular song from Theologian, that was the word. A very popular song from as far back as 1942 was Happy Holiday. You might know this song, or at least one of its 65 million covers. It was originally sung by Bing Crosby, who was, by all accounts, a pretty devoted Catholic. Bing was one of the faces of Christmas for decades. His Christmas radio broadcasts were hugely popular. That song was the opening and closing theme of his Christmas Sing with Bing program, which aired every Christmas Eve for almost 10 years. So sure, Happy Holidays is a useful catch-all term, since there are a lot of holidays going on, makes sense to use it in some contexts, but saying it isn't actually a new phenomenon. It's been a normal thing for Christians to say to each other for many years. These are all indisputable and quite interesting historical facts. But not everyone puts the truth on their Christmas list. Some people want to open their stockings and find an explanation for why they're angry all the time. The big originator of the War on Christmas theory is Bill O'Reilly. I couldn't find footage of Bill's original War on Christmas segment, but handily the script Bill reads from in these segments was posted as an article on Fox's website. The segment was titled Christmas Under Siege, in which he made exaggerated claims about how various holiday parades were doing away with Christmas floats, New York has a holiday tree instead of a Christmas tree, and how Macy's stopped greeting people with Merry Christmas. They said a different thing. O'Reilly then went on to fantasize that this was part of a plot to diminish people's faith in religion, saying that quote-unquote secular progressives wanted to destroy religious oppositions to their policies, such as gay marriage, abortion, and drug legalization. And to bring about this horrible nightmare future, it was important to destroy religion in the public arena. Thus, Christian displays like Christmas must be scaled back because the connection with Judeo-Christian beliefs is bad for the secular agenda. Ah, yes, the famously Judeo-Christian belief in Christmas. The secular movement has influence in the media, among some judges and politicians. Americans will lose their country if they don't begin to take action. Any assault on Judeo-Christian philosophy should be fought. Organizations like thomasmore.org and the Alliance Defense Fund in Phoenix are fighting back, but need your help. The USA cannot defeat terrorism and any other evil without a strong, traditional foundation that clearly defines right from wrong. The struggle today is not about Christmas, but about the spirit of our country. Bill is writing about how Macy's say a different thing now. It's basically the conservative version of slam poetry. Take something that technically has happened and then contort it until it's an attack on the very soul of our society and we need to defend ourselves. And that's why we need your attention and the money we'll get from our sponsors for getting eyes on their peppermint-flavoured Play-Doh or ribbed for her pleasure coffee machines. Bill's early rhetoric forms the basis for all the madness to come. It's always stores not saying Christmas as much, stuff like that. Holiday wish list? Oh no, God is dead and we have killed him.
The other side outnumbers them. I mean, Judeo-Christian people who believe in that philosophy outnumber the secularists, maybe 6 to 7 to 1.
My religion has more subscribers than yours. By the end of his tenure, Bill was straight up just saying the names of companies which were trying to slit the throat of Christmas.
Barnes & Noble, Best Buy, Foot Locker, The Gap, The Limited, Nordstrom.
Shopping on Amazon.
This year's list was handily provided to Bill by the American Family Association. The AFA website is a series of articles about how only the left does violence because they've never heard of mass shooting statistics. LGBT people are the real bullies because, a woman refused to accept her children were trans and they stopped wanting to talk to her. Hallmark and Chick-fil-A are the devil now because they showed a lesbian wedding in a commercial or something. And how VeggieTales is back. Oh, and also tons of War on Christmas bullshit, verbatim stealing Bill's old shtick. 3 guys you've never heard of discuss the secular push to scrub away the root word of Christ in Christmas.
There was a war on Christmas we were noticing.
Some people may say, well, that's not really a big deal, is it? Well, we thought it was part of the secularist push to scrub all references to Christianity from our culture.
Yeah, we've heard all this before. The secularists want to destroy Christianity, and they're doing it by rewording a few things at Christmas. But the AFA, unlike Fox, don't have advertisers. They survive through donations and selling things on their website. And you bet they've got a way of capitalizing on the war on Christmas. They want you to buy a button that reminds people that Jesus Christ exists.
Well, it is the Christmas season, and we've got these buttons that we are offering.
Honestly, how can people know you're a real member of the Jesus fan club if you aren't repping his holy merch?
You can get your 10-pack of these buttons for $15, and just go to afa.net. Is it AFA Store? AFA?
Either one.
AFAstore.net, AFAstore.net.
Which brings us to the AFA's yearly naughty or nice list. One of the most deludedly self-righteous lists I've ever read. And I've read my top 10 games of the decade list. Both versions of Dark Souls 2 are on there out of spite. Fuck you! We are not friends! Click on any naughty company name for details and contact information. They want you to send emails to some guy who works at Office Depot to try to get them to write Christmas on things things more? If a company has items associated with Christmas, but did not use the word Christmas, then the company is considered as censoring Christmas. That's the rubric. If you sell me a cracker at Christmas, but you don't call it a Christmas cracker, you're a secularist terrorist who's trying to stab the Christmas family. For many years, Bill, with the help of the AFA, was the reigning champion of the fight to save Christmas. He was the only man standing up to defend Christian values, which are the reason he knows right from wrong so well. But then in 2017, he got fired for allegedly sexually harassing at least 6 of his female co-workers. It's very clear why the war on Christmas argument is so attention-grabbing. It's telling people that their religion is under attack and we need those traditional values or our country will fall to terrorism or other evil. People will pay attention to your show when you say things like that, which leads to increased viewership and higher value of your advertising spots. You might even get people to buy a button, or get some wealthy cretins to donate comical amounts of money to you. However, I don't think this alone gets to the true core of why this belief survives so well in the minds of more extreme conservatives, so we're gonna have to go deeper. And then it says in brackets, Inception horn noise. Oh, I wasn't supposed to read that. Maybe to understand this line of thinking further, we need to go in search of even more ridiculously false and silly versions and see how it functions there.
First, I want to start off with central theme, which is the war on Christmas.
Oh, hi, Paul. In this classic video from 2017, which is a yearly rewatch for me, it's just a hilarious shambles in so many ways. Paul Joseph Watson spends 15 minutes of what's left of his life, and you only get one life, this is it, complaining that there's a Tesco commercial with too much diversity in it.
They called it a Christmas ad, or at least it was supposed to be that. Didn't have any symbols of Christianity in the ad whatsoever. It did have a gay couple, hijabi Muslims, all this other guff. No actual Christian symbol, because of course we can't have that anymore, can we? At least like put a vicar in it or something. A cross. Anything Christian. It's a Christmas ad, for God's sake.
Alright, fine, Paul. I'll see what I can do. Approved for broadcast in InfoWars land. Wait, Paul also stipulated that a religious figure would suffice. Okay, how about this? Hey guys, that was the College of Cardinals on the phone. I've just been elected Pope. There, is that religious enough for you? And if that's not good enough, I bet I can undo some more catechisms. But hang on a second. It's easy to make fun of Paul, he's made sure of that, but let's seriously look at the idea there is some kind of manipulation happening with the lack of Christian iconography in this commercial. Because this begs a deeper question, which is, should Christmas commercials prominently display Christian stuff like crosses and priests? Because I haven't seen a convincing argument that the answer to that question is yes. If you look at commercials from the past, you can still see a seemingly deliberate choice not to mention Christianity, even when the presumed audience would be mostly Christian. Christmas commercials have been around for a long time now, and this discussion has been being had since before anyone knew what political correctness was. This is because, strangely enough, plenty of Christians think seeing their religion tied to a product being sold to them is kind of a crass and somewhat disgusting marketing tactic. To explore this, let's look at a Fox and Friends segment that accidentally went a little off script. They had a real Catholic priest on to discuss the war on Christmas, but shockingly for them, he wasn't worried that things weren't Christian enough.
You'd be fine if it said Merry Christmas, but it doesn't. It says Happy Holidays, or things are simply red or green.
Well, it's not so much that bothers me. It's more that the consumerism and the pressure to just shop.
He was much more concerned with how consumerism had eroded the religious meaning of the holiday.
It's more the consumerism, I think, that's a problem for me.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the stores that have taken Christmas out of their mottos. J. Crew.
You can see the Fox people had really planned for a very different kind of interview. They'd prepared a graphic all about the mottos that didn't say Christmas anymore, but not everyone is interested in fabricating a culture war for attention. Some people actually want to think about things.
I guess it bothers me that they're using sort of overtly Christian tropes and themes like believe and marry and things like that are associated with Christmas, but they're using it to just market goods. Now, I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just a way to appeal to as many people as possible, but it really kind of denudes the holiday of any sort of religious import.
And it seems that for many devout Christians, the concern isn't that commercials aren't Christian enough, it's the exact opposite, that commercials are leaning a bit too heavily on Christian ideas and themes in order to sell products. But the Catholic Church is notoriously full of commie scumbags. It just hasn't been the same since the Byzantine papacy. You don't have to get it, don't worry. Sometimes you write jokes just for you. Maybe commercializing the religious aspect of Christmas to sell things is bad, and the more generic holiday theme hymns in stores and commercials is a good way of respecting Christians' religious traditions. And it's been that way since long before 2017. Paul's whole narrative here is based on the assumption that commercials loved to invoke Christianity until Twitter invented social justice. But as we've seen, this assumption is objectively false. And inventing an imaginary past that's been stolen to justify present foolishness is a real Rachel move. Regina Phalange. Facts and data are inconvenient for Paul, so he doesn't like to bring them up, but I saw something interesting that I thought was relevant, so I'm going to talk about it while I have the chance. There's a great paper by the National Center for Social Research, which has been gathering data about how people approach their religion for about 35 years now, and what they discovered is quite interesting. In the last 30 years, less and less people identify as Christian, at least according to the most accurate data. This corresponds with an increase in people identifying specifically as unreligious or atheist. Since the 2010s, there's been decisively more non-religious people in Britain than Christians even. Most of these people probably still celebrate Christian traditions, they're a common part of English culture. I'm an atheist and I still celebrate Christmas. But all these folks probably aren't putting crosses anywhere in their houses, and really, who's to say that that's what Christians do? Not everyone thinks that celebrating their faith requires putting a cross in their house. People's relationships with their religion aren't that simple. There's no Christmas handbook mandating you hang a cross up for the Yuletide. In fact, the actual Christian handbook seems to prioritize worshipping in private, unlike those darn pagans who love to babble on and on. What a weird thing to specify. I guess what I'm trying to say is, for most people, this commercial is an accurate representation of how people behave at Christmas. It's just not about throwing crosses around, you know? But while we're on the topic of representation, I can't help but notice the specific lack of lightsabers or delicious space milk anywhere in this commercial. Even though, according to census data, almost 1% of Britons self-identify as Jedi. Probably not after this Christmas, though. No! Stop it! No! Paul's rant kind of goes on for a while. He doesn't really have a point he's getting to, so much as he's mad a commercial has Muslims in it for a few seconds. He's mad it's a Twitter moment and some people are applauding the diversity. He's sure that a YouTube video being brigaded by his followers and getting a couple of thousand dislikes indicates actually it's very unpopular, and so on. You can even see in his face that he's struggling to really articulate a decent justification to be angry.
Of course, there was a backlash to the backlash, which basically peaked yesterday with Twitter. Twitter came out and said this was one of their featured stories in their Twitter Moments, which of course is on the homepage when anybody goes onto Twitter.
Imagine this being your life. It's stuff like this that really gives context to tweets where he's mad at black celebrities talking about racism, calling them sanctimonious crybabies. Saying Britain still has racism is annoying. What's way more important and pressing is the Tesco Christmas commercial. He's also very sure this stuff isn't Bill O'Reilly nonsense anymore. It used to be, but it's real now.
It's no longer some Bill O'Reilly meme when it's actually happening.
He keeps saying this over and over. It's like boomer dubstep.
I remember 10, 15 years ago, this is something that Bill O'Reilly, these other neocons would constantly bring up. People would debunk it and say it's a false concern, it's being exaggerated. There's no war on Christmas. What are you talking about? This is crazy. Well, fast forward to 2017.
Everything Bill O'Reilly said, yeah, that was crazy. But fast forward to the Tesco Christmas commercial. The thing about InfoWars videos, which are recorded live on the actual show, the ones where Alex is also there and Paul's just calling in, is that Paul is fundamentally not a very good live speaker. I'm not saying this because I disagree with his political views, or to make fun of him. He's a poor public speaker, it's just not one of his skills. And that's fine, some people are just too self-conscious for it. That's why he writes his videos in advance and edits them with snappy cuts and always is yelling. It makes his work hold people's attention, but he just can't maintain that energy in a live setting. Worse, his clear anxieties about what he's doing start to come through when the spotlight's on him too long. Sometimes he workshops his tweets in the pub with his friends before he posts them. No, I'm serious. He shows the tweet on his phone to his friends and asks, "Is this okay? Should I post it?" Looking for some kind of approval with an anxious look on his face. And it's a tweet petulantly quoting Stormzy out of context in order to imply that he hates all white people, and his remaining real-life friends nod and go, "Yeah, sure, man. I don't get why it's a big deal to you, but I guess it's for your job, right?" And then one of them sends me a message about it later. But anyway, my point is, Paul isn't that great at this whole live entertainment thing, and there's a reason Alex Jones uses him as sporadically as he can on his shows. He's only got about 5 things to say, and he has to keep saying them over and over. So eventually Alex realizes he needs to jump in and starts interrupting him with points of his own.
It's a Christmas ad, for God's sake. But here's the kicker, right?
It's like having a Christmas ad where you drag Santa Claus behind a car.
Yeah, there've been newspaper articles about it all week.
Well, Paul, this is cultural appropriation. This is what the left's all about, is overriding, taking control of everything, dominating culture.
All the headlines were like, oh, you're so offended at seeing Muslims. It's like, no, I'm offended at the fact, or I'm perplexed at the fact there's no...
It'd be like if you had an ad saying, this holiday season, support Ramadan at your local halal stores, and then it showed guys in Knights Templar uniforms at the Muslim store.
The Muslim store. The other big claim he's making in this War on Christmas bit also is to do with Tesco. Paul went to a Tesco's and noticed, to his horror, that not enough things said Christmas, so he whipped out his phone and took some pictures to complain about on Twitter later. There's a funny bit in this video where Alex says he should have documented it, not realizing Paul already had.
They've got these Christmas cards, Alex. They've renamed them. They're now called charity cards.
Paul, you got to go back in and get some footage of this.
Well, I've got the pictures and I tweeted them, but people said...
Just incredibly poor communication going on at InfoWars. The tweets themselves are really something.
Was in Tesco earlier. Their entire...
I can't do his voice. Their entire Christmas shelf, cards, wrapping paper, confectionery, not a single mention of the word Christmas. Not a single one. Christmas cards are now called charity cards. Pathetic. Truly pathetic. And then he added Tesco. Yeah, this is Tesco speaking. I'm sorry, Paul. We'll put Christmas on the crack. And before all you pointy heads claim they're called charity cards because some proceeds go to charity, that's always been the case. But they were still called Christmas cards. It's not just the commercial. At Tesco has capitulated to politically correct douchebaggery. And then there's a picture of some crackers and they're just called crackers. You know, because that's their name. They're not even calling them Christmas crackers anymore. The War on Christmas used to be some far-right evangelical Bill O'Reilly... Jesus Christ, Paul, we get it. You don't have to say it that many times. You think your audience is illiterate? Actually, that's a fair assumption. Truly saddening. After all these years, Tesco have finally started the War on Christmas for real. There's no Christmas anywhere in Tesco anymore. Not a single one. However, eagle-eyed viewers, well, frankly, eyed viewers who take a look at the photograph for more than a nanosecond might start to notice things Paul somehow didn't notice when he was literally standing there looking at them. For example, if you zoom in on one of his own pictures, you can actually see Merry Christmas written on some of the crackers. Some people went into their local Tesco and found that Christmas was written everywhere. Some people pointed out that these charity cards were in a display marked Christmas cards, and still others looked at packs of these charity cards and found that some of them say Merry Christmas on them. Tesco also has Christmas all over its website, where it happens to refer to the charity cards as charity Christmas cards. The website also refers to crackers as Christmas crackers. Not a single one. These things were mentioned to Paul immediately in response to the tweets when he made them a few years ago, and good fun was had by all laughing at this sad middle-aged man taking pictures in Tesco to whine about. By far the funniest bit of this video is when they cut to a feed of Paul's tweet thread about the Tesco stuff, and when they're scrolling down they accidentally scroll to the tweet pointing out Christmas is literally on the packaging, and then whoever's doing the screen capture panics, zooms out and scrolls down one more, and it's the one pointing out Christmas is on the website, and they just have to awkwardly fade back to Paul, saying it's not all made up, this is definitely real.
Now, I mean, this is not some kind of Bill O'Reilly meme from the early 2000s anymore. This is actually happening.
No, I get it, Paul, it's not just Bill O'Reilly anymore, you made that point already, move on.
This is a deliberate Orwellian process of eliminating words, changing language for the purposes of some lame nod at political correctness.
Okay, some of you might be confused at this point, so let's just get this straight. The far left, who, as we all know, run Tesco, are trying to undermine culture because they're worried about sounding racist. So they're doing this by not letting stores put Christmas anywhere, except in the stores, the products in the stores, and on the website. There, sorted. See? It's the Marxists at it again.
I went into Tesco on Saturday, went to the Christmas section of the store. Not one mention of Christmas. They don't even mention the word Christmas.
Paul, of course they did. That's how you know it's the Christmas section. That's why every year I know exactly where the elves are. You can't hide from me. Now, there is one minor thing worth talking about here. One teensy tiny thing that Paul might not have thought about, which is that one of the reasons why Christmas isn't written on everything is because you already know it's for Christmas. All the Christmas stuff is only in stores in the Christmas season for you to buy for Christmas. They're neatly arranged in special red aisles so you know where to look for the Christmas stuff. Putting Christmas on every single thing is just pointless. This isn't even to do with political correctness, it's just basic store design. They don't feel the need to acknowledge Christmas on the label because Christmas is being acknowledged at every other point in this transaction. Oh no, the label of this wrapping paper doesn't say Christmas wrapping paper. Help, I'm being tricked into forgetting my religion exists. Oh, Christmas is written all over the fucking wrapping paper? Oh, well I guess I'll celebrate Christmas again this year. God, the cultural Marxists had better get their act together if they're gonna win this war. Fuck! There! That's probably structurally stable, right? Now, one might say, it's not fair to go after an old InfoWars video. What if InfoWars have spontaneously become smart and rational now, and cleverly moved on from a topic that they got obliterated on when people looked at their own photos? Well, yeah, they did. They dropped the topic and decided to move on to doing real journalism. I'm kidding, they did another one this year. Alex Jones goes to the Texas state capitol to witness the city of Austin's Christmas tree and expose the anti-Christian agenda hidden in plain sight. The banner beneath the tree that reads Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. Merry Christmas. And it's about Jesus Christ. It's not about the big corporations and the Chi-Com atheist and the globalist.
I think the existence of videos like this really crystallizes what the war on Christmas is actually about. Bullshit artists like InfoWars have to play a very careful game to survive and make money. InfoWars can't make money as a news website because they don't actually do any journalism, so no one comes to them for that. And they can't easily sell advertisements on their website or videos because, for unknown reasons, barely anyone wants to be associated with them.
It starts out with don't use the N-word. Well, I don't use that, so okay. And then next it's, don't say Merry Christmas, say Happy Holidays.
Yeah, those are the same thing. I never thought of it that way. Imagine a shoe company looking for somewhere to advertise and seeing one of these videos and it's Alex Jones going, remember when they tricked us into not saying the N-word anymore? Well, Happy Holidays is just like that. They're probably gonna say no. But Alex Jones has this problem, which is that he really, really likes expensive watches. He loves to wear Rolexes on his show, and according to court records, he once bought 4 of them in a single day. The cheapest one I could find him wearing cost around $12,000. So obviously he needs a lot of money to live. And how's he gonna do that? Why, he'd have to develop some kind of business model that revolves around exploiting gullible people. So their best bet is to target a very specific demographic. In this case, conservatives with a conspiratorial streak, validate them by telling them that they're right, and then going, hey, if you want to become even more powerful, check out our pills. Also, get all you need to completely stuff Christmas stockings this year with our Christmas Mega Pack.
So it starts with, don't say Merry Christmas, and it ends with, they create an orthodox centralized system as well that is going to be welded into the new fascist left West. And out of that marriage, you will have the communist socialist system of Islam merge with that.
I mean, this sentence doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. It's a list of keywords. But just making fun of how dumb this all is would be to ignore why he still does it and why it works. On topics like this, I find myself constantly coming back to a great paper by Cormac Hurley, a principal researcher at Microsoft, about Nigerian email scams and how they function. You know how the Nigerian email scams usually have very poor language usage and grammar, and even say they're from Nigeria, even though if you Google Nigeria, one of the first results is email scam, and that makes them an obvious scam to most people? This is actually part of how the scam works, because their targets are the sort of people who won't notice the writing problems, because they tend to be the sort of people who end up giving them money. If you're smart enough to not fall for that part, they don't want you wasting their time, and they've quite smartly selected you out of the process by writing poorly. Since gullibility is unobservable, the best strategy is to get those who possess this quality to self-identify. InfoWars is following a similar business practice. Alex Jones's objective is to make money to sustain his expensive lifestyle where he eats watches or something, and to do that he needs to target an audience who will be fooled into buying his overpriced stuff. So by talking absolute nonsense, yes, Jones is turning away everyone with half a brain, but people with half a brain generally are quite hard to sell the world's most expensive protein bars, ultimate fish oil, and Ultra 12. Jones is deliberately laser targeting the kind of people who would hear a phrase like the communist socialist system of Islam and think, wow, that's bad, that's really bad, that's 3 bad things I hate. How do I stop that thing that must be happening because the man with the nice watch said it was? Which leaves them open to being sold the idea that keeping InfoWars afloat by buying their stuff is basically the same as showing you're a hero fighting back against these very real problems. And for the people who fall for it, it is a real ego boost, which creates a loyal fan base full of repeat customers. Nobody finds these videos convincing, but the people they're for find them reassuring. What you call weird conspiracy theorists who need validation, some people call a marketable demographic. But to keep this machine going, Jones has to find increasingly outlandish things to say to hold these people's attention and come up with reasons to keep supporting him and fighting the info war. And that means getting more and more ridiculous as the infinite eternal threat only gets even more infinitely threatening. Not only does this dance get increasingly difficult, they've also discovered that you can't just say lies about people, it turns out. If they say ridiculous bullshit about real people, they risk being sued for libel or defamation, as is the case with the Sandy Hook parents, who are in the process of fucking destroying Jones in court for telling his sizable audience that the parents of murdered children are all just paid actors and it was a fake shooting. So the war on Christmas is a real boon for Jones, because he can just go hog wild about whatever comes into his head, just make up whatever, and occasionally cut to footage of a tree being pushed over or some random act of vandalism and explain how they're all connected by a web of destruction by the secret Muslim communist anti-family coalition, and it's so incomprehensible it can't even be considered defamation of anyone. This is the kind of nonsense safe zone InfoWars has to live in to avoid destroying itself by getting owned in court, which is why, for legal reasons, I'm required to mention that story I told earlier about Paul Joseph Watson is not true. I made it up. Those DMs are fake. I thought it would be a funny joke to show how shitty it is to make things up about people. However, even though I made it up, it definitely did happen. The war on Christmas is a safe bet for Jones to cover, since there's no obvious tangible negative effect on real people, except his audience, whose minds he is completely ruining, but that's their choice. As what some French people might call a connoisseur of InfoWars garbage, so I guess it's me whose life they're ruining, this is my favourite kind of the schlock they do, where Alex just grabs a cameraman and goes out in public and just makes a bunch of noise and runs around annoying people and getting to arguments with whoever he can get his soy-stained hands on. Sometimes he forgets that trying to cite data opens him up to being punked and accidentally offers statistics that can be easily rebuked with simple explanations, and then they have to leave it in because that's the best footage they got that night.
There is a war on Christmas. There is a war on Christianity. Did you know that more than half of all religious persecution in the world is against Christians?
I believe it. I mean, we're one of the largest groups.
No.
So statistically, if there's attack on religion, there's going to be a lot of attack on Christians.
Turn down for what? Monster
kill. Once that kid politely shakes his hand and leaves, Jones starts losing it, just screaming Merry Christmas into the void, talking about how free he is from control.
Merry Christmas! We're not surrendering, ladies and gentlemen. America and the world is awake. Freedom is rising. And Merry Christmas from Infowars.com.
But then he remembers that the point of all this is to push his products, so then there's another few minutes where he calms down and talks about the great deals you can get at InfoWarsStore.com.
There's a war on Christmas, there's a war on America, there's a war on our free speech, there's a war on the family's very existence. And those very same forces that have it out for Christianity have it out for InfoWars and have it out for you and your family. But we need you to go to InfoWarsStore.com this Christmas. We need you to fund InfoWars by getting great products you need. We've got huge sales going right now.
And this completes the selection process. After spending 15 minutes literally just running around and screaming at people, anyone still watching is probably a prime target for his advertising. So you get 3 whole minutes of him explaining to you how cheap the deals are. Everything's still more expensive than the equivalent you could find at like any other store. But that's not the point. The point is you're supporting the info war. You're saving the world with free speech and fight bad men. I'm so glad I can fight back against control and be free. by purchasing iodine. So we find here that the war on Christmas is a decent way of getting very gullible people to pay attention long enough that you can direct sell them diet supplements. And we've seen how, for people whose business model involves straying close to legal action, something ridiculous and silly like the war on Christmas is kinda a gimme. You can accuse the Bad People Coalition of secret Christmas crimes, and you're safe, because imaginary people you made up can't sue you. However, we still haven't fully discovered why the war on Christmas specifically has such a strong appeal to the kinds of sad people who make up InfoWars' customer base, or why conservatives see such an appeal in believing Christmas is under attack in the first place. So to find out more, I got bored and decided to invent a new recipe for eggnog. Well, there you have it. The war on Christmas is over. And I guess Christmas won because it turned out that there never was a war on it. Oh well. I think eggs go bad pretty quick, don't they? Oh, my tummy and brain. I microwaved this earlier to warm it up, and now there's definitely bits of paint loose in it. Thanks, Neil. Oh, I think I'm crossfaded on paint fumes and alcohol. Oh no, it's happening. I've lost enough IQ points that I think IQ is real. And that means I'm fucked up enough to watch a PragerU video. PragerU is a YouTube channel funded by oil and fracking barons and other related think tanks which likes to masquerade as a university. Honestly, you don't even need to look up the topics they cover. If you find a list of their major donors, you can pretty easily guess the entirety of their video output. They make 5-minute long videos which feature next to no research or evidence, but they have a lot of money to spend on infographics and getting special guests to read their scripts, and that's basically the same thing as being true. This one on the war on Christmas is called Just Say Merry Christmas. This is the usual stuff we've seen before, but presented in a new way. I mean, literally, it's just a repurposed Bill O'Reilly script, complete with an aside about how it's the secularists' fault.
The opponents of Merry Christmas and other uses of the word Christmas know exactly what they're doing.
The opponents of Christmas? What the fuck?
They're disingenuous when they dismiss defenders of Merry Christmas as fabricating some, quote, war on Christmas. Of course it's a war on Christmas. Or more precisely, a war on the religious nature of America.
When I first watched this video, this image kept coming back to me of a person who says happy holidays and laughs at people who think the war on Christmas is real, morphing into an enemy combatant. Why was this imagery necessary? Why take people laughing at you for believing a made-up thing, accuse them of knowing exactly what they're doing, and then reveal them to be trying to destroy America's nature? And then I realized that this is the actual core of the whole thing. This image actually explains more about the conservative ideology than anything else we've covered here. You see, Dennis Prager and ideologues like him have for quite a while been encountering this one small problem, which is that their ideas are wrong. This is why, if you watch any of PragerU's other videos, they're full of completely hysterical, imaginary graphs, most of which don't even label their axes. What even is this? And often they make outright false claims and tell clear lies. Sometimes they fabricate ridiculous quotes and put quotations around them as if to say, look at this ridiculous thing people who disagree with you say, but the quote is something they made up. No one actually said this. They made it up and attributed it to some imaginary enemy to try to convince you that this is what people who aren't like you believe, so you must be right. This constant lying and misrepresentation of reality makes my point for me. To get you to believe what they believe, they have to lie, because the truth simply isn't enough to support these beliefs. The bulk of PragerU consists of strategies to get around the fact they don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to the truth. And this is where the war on Christmas and similar conspiracy theories comes in. Because when a belief system is on shaky ground when it comes to the truth, it needs something else to maintain it, extra beliefs and fantasies to prop it all up. Otherwise, doubts and anxieties start to come in. What if I'm wrong? What if I've missed something? What if other people are laughing at me? What better way to put a stop to these feelings than to convince yourself your enemies are trying to destroy your culture, even your holidays? That they're even doing it on purpose and know they're doing it because they're the bad guys and you're the good guys. Instantly, all your doubts and fears that you've missed something, all critical thinking, can be dismissed. Life stops being about reason or evidence and starts being about the war to protect your ways from the bad ways. Right and wrong don't matter anymore. They are conspiring to destroy you. When you don't say Merry Christmas, You're stealing my holiday from me. They even have a little animation where a kid beats up Santa Claus. This is how persecuted the far right need to convince themselves they are to escape from the much simpler conclusion that some of the things they believe aren't true. Everyone has to be out to get them. Even by saying happy holidays, you're kicking the shit out of their dreams. Imagine something you enjoy, something you love. The bad guys hate it. They'll call it racist and patriarchal and try to destroy it. You're smart. You think good things. Their ideas are weird and strange. It's okay. It's okay. You can go back to sleep. You don't have to stop and think too hard about the fine details of your beliefs if you also believe the world is out to get you for what you believe. You're just too darn persecuted to stop and ask yourself why all the data contradicts you. They're trying to erase your culture, so they're probably lying.
We're so busy in America trying to promote tolerance, but this tolerance is tolerating everything except Christianity. They look at Christians as narrow-minded bigots. But the opposite is actually true. Christianity is being bigoted against. We're under attack.
If you're against my intolerance of others, you're attacking me. Conservative Christians must be the real victims of bigotry in the world. I'm not wrong. There's just a war against my beliefs. How convenient.
And it's once again the person of the Lord Jesus Christ that is under attack. Amen. But the Bible says no weapon formed against us shall be able to prosper. So we're going to be all right.
Tell that to Constantinople, baby! Prager ends his video by summing up his victim complex for me.
By not wishing me a Merry Christmas, you are not being inclusive. You are excluding me from one of my nation's national holidays. So please say Merry Christmas and Christmas party and Christmas vacation. If you don't, you're not inclusive. You're hurtful.
Private military contractors, on the other hand, are fine! What the fuck? Ah, what a delightfully unbiased video. No political agenda here. This course was made possible by a generous donation from Reagan.com. A great example of how this imaginary sense of victimhood excuses flaws in the rest of the belief system is present in this video. Prager briefly sums up what he calls the inclusiveness argument. Let's see how he summarizes it.
That Merry Christmas or Christmas party or Christmas vacation is not inclusive.
Now, what he's saying kind of makes sense here, doesn't it? If there's going to be an event during the holiday season that's traditionally called a Christmas party, but some people who don't celebrate Christmas might also be invited to it, some people might argue that calling it a holiday party is a more appropriate name than a Christmas party. Now, personally, I don't think it really matters what you call a party, and I also don't really think many non-Christians will decide not to go to an event simply because it's called a Christmas event. But I do see the overall point of the inclusiveness argument. It is maybe a little more appropriate a name for a gathering of people, and I don't really think there's anything wrong with naming something like that in the hopes it makes some people feel more recognized and included. It's just not a big deal. The argument seems fairly decent to me. So, what is Dennis's rebuttal to this argument? Well, his problem is he doesn't really have one. He simply asks who is really being excluded and uses this to segue into an actually unrelated final point, which we'll get to later. But his actual rebuttal is provided in how he presents this argument, which is that this entire argument is just a trick you shouldn't listen to at all. Let's look at how he sets up the inclusiveness argument in the video.
Activists on the left will eventually seek to remove Christmas as a national holiday. Now, the left doesn't announce that its agenda is to thoroughly secularize American and European societies. Instead, they offer the inclusiveness argument.
The leftist secularists, an all-powerful cult, are trying to change the nature of America, but they can't just walk around all day saying, "I'm evil and want to destroy Christmas," so they came up with this argument instead, but it's not their real reason, so you should ignore it. The argument might sound reasonable, but you shouldn't think about it, because they're bad and have an evil agenda. This masks the actual truth, which is that the inclusiveness argument is actually fairly cogent. Dennis can't give a rebuttal to that, because it's a really simple, small point that just makes sense. But admitting that means conceding that sometimes it's nice to make people feel included, which destroys the entire war on Christmas argument. So instead, he reframes the argument as a fake trick by a group of people who want to remove religion from society, who are only pretending to want people to feel included. And this is how persecution complexes function in making people retain their ideas. If you make a decent enough argument that they can't give a rebuttal to, they can just fantasize about how it's a trick.
This inclusive argument plays on Americans' highly developed sense of decency.
They're just trying to play on your sense of decency, as opposed to expecting you to do a really basic, decent thing. It's all part of the secret secularist plot by the secularists to bring about their state religion, secularism.
Most people do not realize that the left believes in secularism as fervently as religious Jews and Christians believe in the Bible.
I'm sorry, what? That doesn't make any fucking sense, Dennis! What does that mean? Who the fuck do secularists pray to? Fucking Aquaman? I did it, I did the joke, I did the thing again. Do you remember it? Do you remember? So, there we have it. I think we figured out the purpose of the war on Christmas. Sometimes it's to grab people's attention, either to sell advertising space, or to directly sell supplements, soy pills, and buttons, but on a deeper level, it's a fantasy of victimhood that helps to support an underlying belief system that doesn't have facts to support it otherwise. You're not wrong. They're just out to get you. Who's they? It's whoever you want it to be. Oh, and here's one last quick incidental thing that happens to tie all of this together. Prager's old War on Christmas video fills time by talking about how a Jewish person wrote White Christmas.
That's why it's not surprising that it was an American Jew, Irving Berlin, who wrote White Christmas, one of America's most popular Christmas songs. In fact, according to a Jewish musician writing in the New York Times, almost all the most popular Christmas songs were written by Jews. Apparently, all these American Jews felt quite included by Christmas.
So, there we go. Non-Christians will never feel excluded by Christmas because 70 years ago a Jewish person wrote a song with Christmas in it. Dennis thinks this is a great point. And you can tell he thinks it's great because he wrote it into the script for this year's video about Christmas as well.
And in perfect melting pot fashion, Irving Berlin, the son of a rabbi, wrote the definitive Yuletide song, White Christmas.
It's such a clever point, you might as well use it twice. Unfortunately for Dennis, Irving Berlin didn't just write exactly one song about Christmas, then disappear into the void. He actually lived on and wrote a few songs that might even be a bit inconvenient for Dennis's argument. In fact, he wrote the song White Christmas for a 1942 Christmas-themed musical called Holiday Inn. Wait, Holiday? This movie was made in 1942! That was decades before they invented political correctness! Sorry, I'm kidding. That's an easy joke to make, I know it's not that simple. But here's the thing, one of the other songs Irving wrote for Holiday Inn was a little ditty called Happy Holiday. The same song that opened and closed Bing Crosby's Christmas Sing with Bing for years and years and years was composed at the same time as White Christmas for the same film. Did Irving Berlin compose this song because of political correctness? Or is Happy Holidays just a normal thing that people have been saying at Christmas forever? I'll let you decide, but I do find it strange that Prager neglected to mention this part of Irving Berlin's career, especially considering that an article he quotes in the video specifically mentions that White Christmas was written for Holiday Inn. So he must have read this, right, and understood that people in Western societies have said Happy Holidays at Christmas for decades, and then blanked it out, so he could continue pretending it's part of a recent, evil, secular plot. Almost as if they're fucking liars whose purpose is to sell a broken belief system so that their benefactors can continue to make money from the status quo. And at the end of the day, isn't that what Christmas is all about? No. Well, it shouldn't be, but it is. Wow, with motion graphics, you can strawman people easily. Great idea, Dennis, but what are you gonna do if other people start doing it to you? Oh, his mouth fell off. Merry Christmas, everyone. See, I can say it, and I'm king of the male feminists, so clearly there's no problem here. Other people do have holidays around now, though, so happy holidays might be more appropriate in some circumstances. Anyway, if you're angry and you need a reason to be angry to do with Christmas, go to therapy. Just go to therapy. Look, if you're angry and you think it's because lesbians are in a Christmas thing, you're not actually angry because people are corrupting Christmas or infecting your traditions and culture. You're not even angry because of political correctness or leftism. You're angry because you feel expected to be, because you've built a cage for your mind. And the solution to that is to change things about yourself. Sorry, there isn't anything wrong that needs to be fixed with the world. That's you.
I wouldn't be so sure, Harris.
Fortnite Tower Recon Specialist! You're alive!
Yes, thanks to the magic of Christmas, I'm real now. And I'm going to take you on an adventure of discovery until you convert to whatever Kirk Cameron thinks is Christianity. You know, like in reactionary Christian movies.
What is this, a nostalgia critic video? We're not doing that. We're not parodying a whole movie genre now. This is the end of the video. We're done.
But movie parodies are automatically funny if you know what they're referencing, so it's easy content. And you make videos slowly enough already. This way, half the script writes itself.
Yeah, for the first few minutes maybe, but I can't sustain a whole... You know, I'm sick of this bit too. We're done. That's the end.
You can't just end a video because you gave up on your own storyline.
Happy Wintermas, everybody!